Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Pretty Privilege series. Today I want to talk about how a lot of unambiguous women are now admitting that they've wanted a beauty pedestal all along. So, this proves why they've always been threatened by my channel as well as the exotical space because we are the first sector on YouTube to not only acknowledge our privilege, but we also embrace our pretty privilege and we embrace the beauty pedestal that we've always had. In fact, I have never heard content creators like Chrissy use the word beauty pedestal until I actually started using it. So I just wanted to point out the fact that the exoticals will always be the trendsetters in the social commentary space. And notice how we are not just a standard of beauty, but we are also a standard of living and we are a standard of social status because all of their colorism content, all the way up to this point, it was always about fighting for social status. It was never about social justice. Anytime they complained about experiencing isms, their main complaint would be that they're not perceived as beautiful. And I want to talk about the Coco Gauff situation because I saw a lot of people were making fun of her natural hair. And these are fellow unambiguous dark skinned black women making fun of her hair. And I think that the main isms come from within the black community, just like I said. If you can think of any colorist, texturist, or featurist comment you've ever received as an exotical, has it been from a white person or a black person? I'll wait. So I find it interesting how they claim that the exoticals are texturist, but if you look at all of the examples of texturism, usually it's coming from a black person. I told you guys before, in the unambiguous black female community, they hate to see these three things at the same time: broad facial features, a dark skin tone, and 4C hair, or any sort of coarse hair that is not slicked back. In fact, that's their standard of beauty when it comes to edges. If you have type 3 hair, you are the black standard of edges in the natural hair community. Your natural edges, the way that your hair just kind of has this soft frizz as opposed to having coils and kinks, you are the standard of beauty in terms of your hair texture. And this is also why a lot of them get jealous of women who have that Horn African phenotype. So Ethiopian women, Eritrean women, Somali women. This ties back to that jealousy as well. It's jealousy over your hair texture. It's jealousy over the manageability that you have in your hair. Or at least that's what they'll say. You know, they claim that type 3 hair is more manageable. In reality, I think that it's more so that they just don't want to wear their 4C hair in its natural state. And so they're constantly trying to slick it down so it can mimic the types of hairstyles that we do in the type 3 community. So here we have a person on Twitter with a picture of an exotical in their profile pic, of course. They said her hair looks horrible. Then you've got an unambiguous overweight obese woman saying they could have done something with her hair. Has anyone noticed that it's always an obese unambiguous woman that's talking about somebody else's hair? Instead of focusing on your own body and weight loss journey, you would rather comment on random women on the internet that you don't even know. And then you had someone that said, "Get that slavery looking ish away from me." So this also proves my talking point again that a lot of them are defined by slavery. A lot of them, they act like they were just picking cotton last week. It's like, bitch, you have never been enslaved. You've never picked cotton a day in your life. You probably don't even live in the South. Well, actually, no, most of them do still live in the South. But it's like, you've never picked cotton. And there's this obsession with trying not to look like a slave. So my question for black female YouTube is, what is your standard of the phenotype of slavery? What does a standard slave look like in your opinion? What hair texture does she have? What skin color? And then what facial features? I'll wait. Because they want to tell others how they should look. They want to constantly talk about how the exoticals should look. And now in this case, they're even talking about one of their own, someone who's supposed to be their beauty representation. They did all this complaining saying, "Oh, we don't get to be celebrated in our natural state. How come all these mixed chicks, they get to wear their hair in a messy bun? They get to go on TV and stuff with no makeup and they get celebrated in their natural state. And unambiguous women don't." And then when you finally have an unambiguous woman in her natural state, similar to Francesca, by the way, who they also canceled, now suddenly it's, "Oh, well, this looks like slavery." So this is another one of their internalized insecurities. It's the fear of looking like a slave or the fear of being perceived as being some sort of slave. I mean, The fact that it's 2026 and you still have this internalized fear of being associated with slavery, I mean, that's very sad, honestly. And by the way, I've noticed that YouTuber Chrissy was trying to call out unambiguous women, saying that they were self hating for making fun of Coco. But saying that you should support Coco, even if every black woman would have supported Coco Gauff, that's still not going to help the everyday, average, unambiguous woman, because the average, everyday, unambiguous woman still relies on weaves and extensions and silkier hairstyles in order to feel beautiful. So until unambiguous dark skinned black women start wearing their natural 4C hair exactly like Coco Gauff in large numbers, then they will never receive the beauty pedestal that they're looking for. And so that's the difference. That's one of the main status differences between the unambiguous community versus women who are accused of benefiting from isms. At least the exoticals are more natural, just in general. You'll see more exoticals looking natural just in everyday life. Go to your local community where there are a lot of exoticals and go observe them in the grocery store. And I guarantee you're probably going to see more exoticals with their 4C hair versus unambiguous dark skinned black women. It's very rare. Even when I'm in a black city, it's very rare for me to see unambiguous dark skinned women with this same hairstyle that Coco Gauff has. Because a lot of them are so consumed with trying to compete with MLS women. They're trying to compete with non-black women for the male gaze. And so for the most part, they feel like the only way to compete is by not having that hairstyle that Coco Gauff has. And so that's one of the main things that stops their beauty pedestal is the fact that, you can't even see their beauty. They don't show their beauty. They don't believe that their natural hair texture coupled with their dark skin and broad features is beautiful. If you're light skinned, you can have any hair texture because in the black community, you're just going to be worshipped anyway if you have a lighter complexion. But unfortunately, they spent all of their time pedestalizing light skinned people, mixed people, white people, and they didn't spend the past 400 years building their own pedestal for unambiguous women. Exoticals have always been very strategic. We've always been fantastic at maintaining our own pedestals, whether it was the Creole community in the early 1900s, whether it was the MLS women at HBCUs throughout the decades, or even today. So we have always been a lot better at strategizing and making sure to promote our beauty so that we can maintain our pedestals. And by the way, the whole Coco Gauff situation also is proof that a lot of black women engage in this mean girl culture, kind of this culture of like bullying other women or like being super catty, and they'll swear up and down that they're fucking Mother Teresa. They'll swear up and down that they're the nicest women ever, and then they'll be like, "Oh, well, stop stereotyping. You think I'm the angry black woman, ma'am? You literally got angry at a stranger on the internet because she wore her 4C hair." So yes, that does make you look like an angry black woman. The fact that you're outraged and canceling someone and going on an entire smear campaign of someone who has your own phenotype, the fact that you're literally angry and worked up because she showed your hair texture in its natural state, yes, it absolutely makes you look like an angry black woman. So a lot of them don't realize that when they bully MLS women or when they bully each other, that contributes to how negative their collective image is. Because it's like, we're not accusing unambiguous women of just bullying us. No, a lot of them bully each other. A lot of them bully black men, and then black men bully the black women back. And then, it's this culture of dysfunction. It's like this culture of always having to bring someone down, always having to humble someone. I talked about this before, how a part of the African American culture is roasting. Roasting is a part of the culture. Like, that's considered funny and cute, and I guess that's a way that people show their personality is by putting others down. And so with the whole Coco Gauff situation, you have a lot of black women saying things like, "Oh, well, I'm just giving my opinion. Oh, well, I'm just posting on threads. It's not a big deal." And so there's this culture of minimization. They want to minimize other people's feelings. They're minimizing other people's self-esteem and saying it's not a big deal. Have you ever been told by a black person that you're too sensitive? Have you ever been told by a black person that you take things too seriously, or that you just want people to kiss your ass, or you're not above critique? They love saying that. "Oh, well, you're not above critique. Well, you're not above people talking about you. Well, you're not perfect. You have flaws too." And so it's almost as if breaking your emotional boundaries is a way for them to remind you of where you came from. So it's like, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget, you're still nappy headed, Coco Gauff. You're still a dark skinned black woman with nappy hair. So just because you got a brand deal with Miu Miu, that doesn't mean that suddenly it's okay for you to just walk out here looking like a slave. So the slavery talking point will always be hilarious to me because it's like, okay, you're saying that she looks like a slave, but then when MLS women say that we're privileged, suddenly you guys want to say, oh, well, the white man still sees you as the exact same as how he sees everyone else. Okay, so then if that's the case, then all black people and all non-white passing people look like slaves then too, right? So which one is it? And another talking point I heard is, oh, well, high fashion brands, they downplay unambiguous black women's beauty. And so, that's what they could have been doing to Coco Gauff. Okay, so how is her being natural? How is that a downplay of her beauty? You're exposing yourself, ma'am. You're exposing your own internalized self-hatred right there. And my question for Black YouTube is, what is downplaying unambiguous women's beauty? Not allowing her to wear makeup? That's downplaying her beauty? Because have you ever noticed that, like, whenever you call out their hypocrisy, they'll be like, oh no, but I need bright lighting for my photos. Oh no, but I need to contour and highlight. Oh no, but I have to wear the lace front because I'm just showing off my beauty. And then without it, my beauty is being downplayed. So my question for Black YouTube is, what does it mean to play up your beauty and what does it mean to downplay your beauty? And please show me images of the Black women that you consider to have quote unquote downplayed beauty. And for all the Black people saying that she looks like a civil rights leader, okay, what does a civil rights leader look like? Because I don't think civil rights leaders looked bad. Wearing suits and wearing those long skirts and stuff, like, how is that looking bad? Like, what is she supposed to be wearing? A club dress? Is she supposed to have her ass out? Like, is that considered to be looking better? Because I think that during the civil rights time, the women looked nice. They had classy outfits and stuff. Unless you're talking about the Black Panther movement where they showed their natural 4C hair. So are you admitting that you think that natural afros make you look bad? Or, it looks like a civil rights leader. But I thought that you guys enjoyed the benefits of civil rights. That's another thing. Why are we suddenly against civil rights? So first you liked civil rights because it helped you to actually have rights. But now suddenly you don't want to be associated with the civil rights movement. Which one is it? Are you grateful for the Black people and really the mulatto community? Are you grateful for the mulattoes who paved the way for you or not? Are you grateful for the civil rights movement or not? Because first you're saying you don't want to look like a slave, which is obviously before the civil rights movement, but then you're also throwing shade against the civil rights movement as well. Okay, so slavery is bad, and then also the civil rights movement is bad, and then they looked bad as well? And then having type 4C hair also looks bad? So do you see how they unintentionally make exoticals their standard? They're making non-blackness their standard. Anything that's not associated with themselves and their natural state and their own history gets pedestalized. And anything that is associated with them and their natural state and their history is looked down upon. So who's the real texturist? Also, I see creators like Chrissy saying that the Miu Miu campaign and how they represent Black women is positive, and this should be used as a way to pedestalize Black women. Okay, but that's not how pedestals work. Pedestals don't work by just having some outdated high fashion brand showing your image once out of every 100 images. That's not how real life pedestals work. Real life pedestals work in real life. So until unambiguous dark-skinned Black women as a collective start dressing like and wearing their hair like the women in the Miu Miu campaigns, that pedestal is never going to come. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.